And I took it to the point where I was taking like 6 tablets a day, and they were double stacked and sometimes even triple stacked. And it almost fried my brain. I went through a nervous breakdown from the things that were going on with my dad and family members. And at the age of 20, trying to take care of 2 children on my own, and also my dad that was suffering from dementia. I lost my mind for a split second.
Yeah.
Coming back.
Quick one before we get on with the episode. We all know that likes and subscribers help every channel on YouTube. So if you could please like and subscribe to this channel, I would really, really, really appreciate it. If you would like help coming into a space of awareness, if you would like support, and you would like just some encouragement, or you just want to have a conversation with me, go to lovecreatesfreedom.com. It will redirect to a Facebook group where I am doing free mentoring. And if you do want to donate because you are loving this and you understand this entire world functions around money, I would really, really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get on with the show, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah. I know absolutely nothing about you, which is a perfect way to start. Tell me, what was the inspiration for you to respond to my post asking for people to come on who have been through trauma and now on the other side?
Well, first of all, I've been through a lot of trauma. And I feel like because of my response to that, which is somewhat different from some people's responses, I felt like I was the proper candidate to be on the show. I have a different response system, let's just say. Even though I've been through a lot of trauma, I don't. If you were to meet me and I didn't never told you about the trauma, you wouldn't even know. It would be like they would think that I would have this perfect life and non-existent, real hardcore experiences. And so because of that, because of the healing that I've been able to do, and not by going to therapy, and nothing against therapy, but not by going to therapy, but actually able to help heal myself. I think that's the reason why I reached out to your post and said, you know what, I could probably help somebody in this situation.
Probably me. So I really want to unpack all of that. I really do. So, because my trauma, I'm very open about it. I don't have any shame around it, but I really struggle with it. I struggle with how I feel on a daily basis. I find it really hard to feel anything other than a worthless sack of shit. And for me, I know that is from my upbringing. That is from just what was put into me. Like the feedback that I got just for existing is why I feel this way, and I'm finding it hard to get past that. So I would love to kind of pick your brain and go,
yes,
why do you think your brain didn't take on the program of being worthless or being hopeless or self-hatred or any of those things that most people take on when they've gone through trauma?
I think it was because my brain was already programmed for my life path. And so saying that, let me explain. So, and this is things that I learned along the way. I didn't know, like, for instance, my life path, I'm a 11 life path. I didn't know that I was on the healing life path. I didn't know that I was from a shamanic bloodline. And so all of those things, when I started to find out, I realized, okay, this is why I responded this way. It was innately inside of me to learn from events of trauma so that I could learn how to heal, so that I could help other people through their healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so with other people, if you're not on the life path of healing, it's almost like, I feel like, and this is just, my own opinion, is that you're not set up for that. You're not set up for the every single moment of my life. I'm looking for healing. I mean, when I go to events, when I speak to people, when I have interactions with my friends, I am looking for the healing inside that interaction because I know I'm on the healing path. And before I even knew I was on the healing path, I was looking for that, but I didn't know what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the difference between me and someone else is that I know my path and I know, like, for instance, me personally, okay, well, building may be difficult for me, challenging for me, because even though that I'm on the healing path, I was a hermit. I was a recluse. I would be like, okay, I'm going to be by myself. That's my safe, comfortable space. Whereas other people that may be builders and not healers, they're building and they're able to interact and they're able to, mingle with people with no interference of fear or of uncomfortability. They're comfortable in that space because that's their life path. So I think that's the difference.
And how did you, when you keep talking about life path and you're talking about builders and hermits, where are you getting that from? What is that?
It came from, okay, I am on the healer's life path. That's my life path, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a seer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that also gave me some really great advantage
Mm.
because all healers are not seers and all seers are not healers. And so because I have a dose of both of them, a healer and a seer, I'm able to get insight of the future, the past, and of the current state of being. And that helps me to really evaluate and, kind of like, what is it called when you actually dissect each event and see what the cause of that was. Why is this event coming? Like, for instance, let me just give you an example. I had a friend reach out to me, lovely, I mean, near and dear to my heart. I have her as a picture on my wall, you know, in with my family. That's how close we are.
Mm-hmm.
She had I guess she was in prayer or something, and something came up, and she was like, whoa, what does this mean? And do you do this? And demonic. And I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? And why is this coming to me? And I was actually, when she was asking me these questions, and this is the reason why I had to really start to focus on the event rather than the incident of it. I had to focus on the event and why it was happening, because I was on my way to speak at at an engagement. And the engagement was at an art gallery, and the art gallery was an African art gallery. So I'm the guest speaker there, and I'm supposed to speak there. And she's bringing all this stuff, like making me to question my path, my identity. Now, the thing about it is one of the good things about it is that I don't have any question. Like, I'm solid as to my spirituality. Whereas some people, when people start questioning them, they start to be shaky. They start to question themselves. They start to doubt themselves. Me, I'm like, this is who I am. I've been doing this for like 3 decades at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I know who I am. So there's no question, but there is a question as to why this is approaching me. Now, I could be questioning the actual individual and their intent, but I don't see life like that. I see life as this is whatever and whoever comes into my life, the event, the person, is bringing tools here for me to understand and equip me for tomorrow or for today. And so I didn't take offense. Like, okay, she came in, and it was very offensive because when you talk about certain things like politics, spirituality, income, it could get, it could get, in a negative spot. And so she was approaching my spirituality. But I didn't see her as a threat because I'm solidified in my spirituality, but I also need to understand why this is being brought to my attention. So that happened. I had a wonderful event. And this was just recently, this weekend on Saturday. I had a wonderful event, amazing, amazing event with some really, I guess you would say, heavy hitters in the world globally. And then at the same time, they invited me back saying, we want you to participate in everything that we're doing with this particular art gallery. Please, we're so thankful and grateful for you. And then the next day I recorded an energetic healing song. And I already had downloaded it. I just wanted to put it on a drum beat. And so like all these things. And then even today, God was showing me like I'm on the right path. There's no reason to question my identity, my spirituality, anything. I'm on the right path. I'm doing what I need to do. He even showed me favor in so many different instances. And so for people that are questioning why are they here? Or why is this happening to them? My thing is that God always leaves us clues. And if you don't see the clues, try to listen closer. Because when I wasn't listening, I was so oblivious to all the clues that he left me. And when I started to really hone in and listen to cut out the noise of everybody else, of even my own thinking, my own doubts, my own disbelief in myself, my own disbelief in my purpose, and just really listen to God and her, whatever you want to call him, her, his, universe, however you want to approach the situation. I started to listen, and then clues started to come and redefine what I really thought to be true about my life, my path, my journey. And so I know that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like ramble.
No, this is great. Don't apologize. I want to know, I'm gonna be asking a lot of how questions because I want to know how. Okay. How did you settle your mind, settle the doubt, settle the questions, settle the fears to tune in? And how did you know that was the voice of God for you? How did you know that was the voice? Is it a voice that you hear in your head? Is it a feeling that you get? Is it an external example, like things come to you, like you hear an idea and then something comes to you to make that idea? Like, what does you heard God mean to you? How does that represent for you?
Okay, I have to go back to when I was about five or six. And I was sitting in the foyer of my father's condominium, condo, I guess you would say. And I was playing with a train set. And my father, he had his own issues. And, I just want to say this in the beginning. I have no quarrel with my father. I love and honor and respect my father. That being said, when he was in the natural world, he was very abusive. He was also a drug addict. And he would do things that were very highly abusive. He would leave me by myself for 24, 36, 48 hours, however many, 72 hours by myself in a room. And, I would be afraid to knock on his door for food. I would be afraid because I would be afraid that he was going to beat me up. And so when I first heard the God's voice was around that time. I was in the foyer and God came and he said, "You're special." And I'm like, and this is now, mind you, I'm gonna tell you what was said, and then I'm gonna tell you coming from a perspective from future tense perspective. But he said, "You're special." And I said, "Really?" And he said, yes, you have gifts. And I said, wow, like Aladdin? Because that's the show, that I was watching. And so one of the things that God will do is he won't make things complicated for you. He will bring it down to the level of understanding that you are at. And so, and he was like, yeah, like I was like, I love the genie and the carpet thing. And I was watching that show and everything else. And he said, and he said that he was my father. And I said, oh, you're my father. So Jesus is my brother. And he giggled, he laughed. And he said something like that. And now the reason why this is very important, because around the same time as a child, a 5, 6 year old child, I wanted to commit suicide. I was in a space where I was tormented. I felt so tormented, so worthless, so abused that he lived on the 6th floor of the condominium. And I oftentimes looked down and said, if I just jump, would I feel it when I hit the ground? That's the only thing that kept me from not jumping at the moment until I heard God's voice. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. And I went through several times actually. I'm not even going to say a few, several times of wanting to commit suicide. I even asked a friend of mine, can you kill me? I gave her a knife and I said, I just want to die. And I was 7. Wow. And so, but in those moments when he said that I was special and I had a gift and all of that, I took that to heart, and it lingered with me, and it helped me through my teenage years. I remembered his voice. I remembered what he said about me. And when things hit the fan, and a lot of stuff hit the fan, when you're on the healer's journey, it sounds so cliche to say, oh, you're going to go through, a lot of trials, but it's true. It's so true. You go through a lot of trials and tribulations because you need to learn how to heal yourself in order for you to help to heal someone else. And so, it kept me going throughout the years until I got about a teenager. And I was like, wait a minute, you said I was special. I don't see anything special about this situation. Why am I going through this torment, this pain, And then he gave me something else. It was like throughout my whole life, when I felt like it came to the end of my road of belief, and hearing his voice and understanding, he gave me something else. And so fast forward to now. Not even to now, but, in between about a decade, he just kept on speaking to me. He kept on showing me. And I started to see that, yeah, I was different. And being different, I had to embrace that. I actually went through a whole year of embodiment last year. And it was not just embodiment, it was about releasing the fear. I had a lot of fear, like fear of my finances. How is everything going to work? I'm always worried about my finances. Oh my gosh, you want me to do these big things? Where am I going to get the money? Like, how am I going to take care of my kids? I have 5 kids, and 4 of them still live at home. How am I going to take care of my kids? I'm a single mother. Although their dad is in their lives and very active, I'm a single mother. How am I going to do all this? Where's the connections? All this vision that you've given me, how is it going to manifest? And the way that God dealt with me is that he threw me underneath the bus. I'm not even gonna lie.
So
he
kind.
said, okay. Yeah. He threw me underneath the bus and said, okay, you don't want to believe, you don't want to listen. Bam. You get hit by the bus. And I started to say, you know what? I'm tired of getting hit by the bus. I'm tired of getting dragged by the bus. I'm tired of the bus. Where is another option? And the other option was the belief in him. The belief in the vision, the voice in my head that kept on saying that I was special, all of that, and not even knowing how or what or when and where, but just saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to surrender. Surrendering, I feel like, has been the hardest, the most challenging thing for me. It was hard. It wasn't even just challenging, it was downright hard.
What were you
Because I'm
surrendering to? The action, or the actions that you heard to take, or the feelings, or the voice? Like, what were you surrendering to?
surrendering to relinquishing control,
Mm-hmm.
control of the outcome, control of the how I'm going to get to the results, just controlling, period, understanding, figuring things out. I am a fixer. I want to figure things out and fix it. Like,
Control and fix, control and fix.
yes.
Yeah.
And I had to surrender. And I actually started to do that last year when I went skydiving. So I went skydiving in October, and I didn't understand where I was going. I was just told, first of all, I wanted to go skydiving for a long time, but it was something that kept on whispering in my ear, you need to go skydiving, you need to go skydiving. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. But the things, once again, the path that I'm on, it's not by coincidence. So when things happen, when the events happen, it's specifically for my healing, so that I can learn from it and help others, help myself, help my family, help my community, help others. And so when I when I went skydiving, I'm like, yeah, okay, what? I don't know why I'm jumping out of this plane. It's especially when I got up into the air and I'm looking down, I'm like, I think this is a mistake. I tried to back out, and the guy was like, no, you have to jump. I'm like, no, I changed my mind. He's like, no, you have to jump. I'm like, no. But anyway, I did jump. And that's the whole thing, is that a lot of times the reasons why we don't follow through with our innate desires and our calling, our purpose, our assignment in life, and the hearing of God, is because that fear right before we jump, it overtakes us and it makes us back down. But if we could surrender to, what, this is, kind of crazy, this is the unknown, and just still jump anyway and trust. Like, I don't know what the heck's going to happen, because I didn't know. Like, I'm like, one of the things that I have is I have breathing problems, from underlying issues and everything else. But I was like, well, how am I going to breathe? So I'm jumping, and I'm like, I'm thinking that I'm about to die because I can't breathe. And I'm like, I mean, if you saw, I have it on my YouTube channel, but if you saw the way that I'm like, it is like, he's like, looking into the camera, and I'm like, I'm like feeling like I'm choking to death. But once he pulled the parachute, and I think this is in all walks of life, in everything that we do, our business, our children, our marriages, or whatever it is, our finances, that parachute does, come out. And it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, once the parachute comes out and you're like, that weight is lifted, you're saved, that you're safer than what you were when you were just free falling. It's like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but here's the shitter with that, though, because the parachute doesn't always open.
Let me say this.
And sometimes you hit the ground and it really hurts.
Let me say this. And once again, remember I told you about the bus? It's because of my disbelief, my desire not to surrender and to remain in control. The thing about it is that we want to have supernatural things happen. We want to have miracles happen. We want to have, phenomenal like stuff happen, like $1 million in our bank account kind of stuff, all of a sudden, but we don't want to have faith. We want that without, we want to have control. We want to fix. And at the end of the day, no miracles, really no miracles could happen like that. If we relinquish control and our ability to see the future, and that's weird coming from a seer, but at the same time, our ability to see and know the future or want to know the future, then we could enjoy the ride. That's the thing, is the ride. That's the most important, the journey. And it's, again, it feels like it's cliche because we've heard it several times. It's not the destination, it's the journey. But I am a living witness. It really, truthfully, it doesn't, if we know, okay, this is where we want to be, and we truthfully believe that that is our path, that's where we're going to end up. That's what you have to always have in your mind. I don't care what it looks like. I was walking with holes in my shoes, rubbing pennies, eviction hold off over eviction hold off, trying to make sure that I provided for my kids. And now I'm getting ready actually to go to Japan in like 5 days with my kids, my 4 kids. And this is the 12th country that I've been able to tour. All of my kids have already been out of the country.
Wow.
And so, going from that and knowing that I knew that I was going to travel the world. I had a feeling that's the desire that I had. But the thing about it is that if I would to just release, and if I did this sooner, it would have been much easier. I wouldn't have been thrown under the bus. Let me just tell you that. But release control on how, what, when, where.
But how?
Release.
How do you release control? I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and I just have this part of me when you talked about traveling the world, and I go, yep, that's what I want to do. But I've got all of these dogs and cats and chickens and geese and guinea fowl, and like, this whole house filled with stuff. And then I'm in the process of wanting to move us back to the city because I moved us out to the country for COVID, when shit hit the storm and everybody freaked out. I freaked out and ran for the hills. And now that I'm here, I'm like, yeah, this would be great for when I was single and I didn't have kids, or when my daughter's older and I don't need to take care of her anymore and I'm just in my own space. I would love this. There's no one here. There's nothing other than me and the animals. How fantastic. So I'm trying to get us back into the city, but money is always a factor. So then there's that part of me that's constantly wanting to go, well, how am I going to make the money? How am I need to do this, and I need to do this, and then I need to do this. And then I go, yes, but I can't do that. And I talked about this actually on the podcast I recorded yesterday, which was, I can't do it. No one wants to see me. No one wants to hear me. No one cares about me. Like, God doesn't care what I do. He doesn't give a shit whether I share my story or whether I live in a hovel in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't care. Like, nobody cares. And so when you're pushing against so much control, like constant control, because the trauma, as you know, or it may not have affected you this way, but for me, the trauma created this incessant need to control, to the point where I'm now 47 and I'm dealing with an eating disorder, which I never thought I would ever do at the age of 47. It's insane. But here I am battling an eating disorder. And that comes from my need to control something, to control anything. And food is a very easy thing to control. And then to fix, constantly wanting to fix things. And then when you live on property, there's always something to fix. There's always something always breaks. You always have to fix something. So it's how, if you're coaching someone or you're talking to someone about this, how do you get them? How do you get it from the head? Because obviously I know in my head, stop controlling, stop fixing, let go, surrender, trust. I know all of that up here. But how do you get it from here down to here? That's what I haven't figured out yet. That dropping it into the body to go, yes, there is something out there that's bigger than me, because I'm not 100% sure. Like, the way I birthed my daughter was not how I wanted it. And I'll tell you a really quick story, because it goes back to what you said when you said you're a healer and you experience things to help people. When I was lying there and I had planned a home birth and it just went wrong and I ended up in the hospital, and while she was getting pulled out with forceps and I'm getting sewn up because I now have, a tear from one end to the other and I'm getting like 500 stitches. I was lying there and I was holding her and I looked up and I said, why? Why couldn't I have a beautiful home birth, which is what I planned? And what I heard was, if you had a beautiful home birth, how many people could you help? And I looked up and I don't want to swear, but I looked up and I just went, are you kidding me? Like, could I not have just one thing that was for me, that I didn't have to experience trauma going through? Is there nothing in my life that could not just be nice and kind and gentle and graceful? Did the birth of my child have to come with trauma as well, just so I can help other people? And then that sent me on that, in alignment with my mum getting sick and passing soon after my daughter was born. That just kind of sent me on this even more control, even more fixing journey. Because of course, when you go through a trauma birth, you lose faith in your body. You lose faith in your physical body, its ability to do what it's supposed to do. Because over here in Australia, everything's about, oh, birthing is so natural and normal and you should never need intervention. And I have such hardcore friends that would say, I would rather die than go to the hospital and give birth. And it's like, well, obviously you have never been in the situation where you had to make that choice. And I'm so glad you were never in that situation to make that choice. But for some of us, we are in that situation. We have to make that choice. Do we go to the hospital or do we die? Or do we go to the hospital or do we let our kid die? Like, that's a choice for some of us. And you just lose faith. You lose faith in God, the universe, divine, whatever anyone wants to call it. You lose faith in your physical body. You lose faith in your heart, your soul, your ability. And then when your family dies, like your mom and your dad both die, you just lose all of that. So this whole podcast, the point of this whole podcast and talking to so many different people is to figure out, through all of that, how does someone hold on to faith? How does someone hold on to belief in goodness when the world is just going to shit? And it's not just my life. You look at, the wars and rape and abuse and murder and everything that's going on bad in the world. How do you hold on to faith and belief that something is there? That was a very big question.
It is, but it isn't, because I think that a lot of people struggle with that, even if they don't know it, even if they're not trying to find holding on to faith or find a way out of trauma. They still have that issue. They still have that challenge. And so, that being said, one of the things that I would say is this. The first thing that I started to do when I was trying to, figure this out, because let me just tell you this. And it's so beautiful, because coming from a person that loves to control, and I had to control because when I felt like I didn't have control, I suffered. I was tormented. I was traumatized. I was abused. I was in so much turmoil. And so I had to have control was my safety net.
Yeah, the protection.
The protection of it, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like if I can't control this, well, at least let me control that. Kind of let me control something. Let me control as many things as I can to make me feel safe. And so what I would do in that scenario, and looking back as to what I did do, is I always started off my dream. What did I want my life to look like? At first, it was a career. Like, well, if I had this career, I would be okay. I would be in a better place. I would be happy. I would have money. I would have, prestige, all the things that I felt like I was not getting. And then it turned out to be, oh, well, what do I want to feel like? What does that life really look like? Not about the money, not about what would make me truthfully, innately happy, not what other people will see of me and what they will think of me, but what will I think of myself? And when I started to do that and I honed in on what I desired to my life to look like, and even now it's like a redefining. Like it's not like this is years ago when I first started this journey, but even recently and since January, I also redefined. So when I redefined in January, let me just tell you how it looks now. If something or somebody is not bringing in safety, freedom, and ease, it has to go. It's not aligned with me. You as a person, me as a person, anybody as a person, if something or somebody is not aligned with you, why are they in your life? You have to think about each event, each person that comes into your life. There are, excuse me, but there are 8 billion, like 8 billion people in this world. And you could imagine there are like trillions of different scenarios of events that could possibly happen. You have to think about, okay, well, this person, this event is coming into my life. Why? A lot of people don't stop and think. Like, whoa, they don't slow things down. It's like the life, it's like they're on a hamster wheel. It's just going, oh, this happened, that happened, this happened. Okay, tomorrow's another day. This happened, that happened. They don't stop to think, why is this happening? What is the significance of this event, this person in my life? And when you start to do that, and when you start to experience, it's almost like you're slowing down the hands of time so you could experience life in a very focused way. And once you start to do that, like certain events that used to happen, if you learn from them and heal from them and grow from them, they won't continue to keep on happening. A lot of times we repeat events because we have not learned the lessons. There are two things that I always tell people that will always consistently appear in your life, and it's unlearned lessons and your purpose, your calling, your assignment in this life. If you constantly are on the hamster wheel and you're like, oh, okay, it's another day, it's another day, it's another day, and you're not focused on these events, then they're going to constantly repeat itself. Okay, this unlearned lesson she didn't learn yesterday. Let's see if she learns today. Let's see if he learns today. Oh, here's the purpose. Like we're showing her who she is, what she is, why she is. Did she learn? Oh, she didn't learn today. Let's see if she learns tomorrow. And it keeps on playing. It's like a broken record. It will keep on playing cycles in your life. And once you start learning from it and start focusing in on, okay, this event is happening, this person is coming into my life, what is the significance of this? How can and I always take things from it. Like one of the things that has really elevated me and has really helped me to see levels of favor and kindness and my innate desires coming true is my ability to always stay in gratitude. And you could say, oh yeah, we heard that. That's the, I don't know what you would call it, but that's, the hippie way or whatever the case may be. No, it is the way that I have lived for several years. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about my background. When I was a small child, I was about 3 or 4, my mother, there was people, and I used to call them uncle, and they were Hispanic. They were in a white truck, and they came with baseball bats and beat the shit out of my mother wall in front of me. And then they grabbed, while I was in the corner, and I don't know what happened after that. The only thing I remember after that is me bouncing on a trampoline and my dress unraveling. And so I had to take my dress off, and my mother just all of a sudden said, let's go see Jesus. And in the moment of that, I'm 3, 4, I don't know what that, gee, okay, yeah, let's go see Jesus. I'm excited. I don't know what the heck is going on. Now, mind you, is in Colorado, it was snowing. It had already snowed. I'm sorry, it had already snowed. Snow was on the ground and everything else. I'm just in my underwear and t-shirt. I don't believe I had any shoes on. She had a robe on, and she fell and she scraped the palm of her hand. Um, a couple in a beige pickup truck came and saw us and took us to the hospital. They gave me me and my mother a gray, blanket and took us to the hospital. And I started again. I was already in foster care. I went through 11 different foster homes before I emancipated at 18. And so I never knew stability. I never knew family. Um, I never had a sense of belonging. But I knew a lot of trauma. And the reason why I could say these things work, the gratitude, when I stepped into gratitude, like this didn't happen to me. These events didn't happen to me, they happened for me. And when I looked at it like that and I started to unveil the sense of, oh, the universe really is conspiring to prosper me. The universe is really working with me. I just haven't been listening. I just haven't been tuning in. And so when I started tuning in and started being gratitude, like, oh, I'm so thankful. Look, my mother could have took us to death. Okay, I could have died at 3, 4 years old thinking I was going to see Jesus, and I had no idea. I don't even think I had an inkling of who he was at that time, even though at 5, 6, I did. I had an understanding, but at 3, 4, I really didn't. I could have died. I don't know where we were going. We were in the snow. I was in my underclothes, no shoes. And so just thinking of the events where I was protected from what could have happened, we always look at what did happen, but we never say, what didn't. I didn't
You're
die.
right. Yeah.
I didn't lose my mind. There was many a times where I should have lost my mind. I didn't lose my mind. I didn't lose the insight of wanting to stay alive. I'm still here. There's many times I tell you that balcony looking down, and it was a wonderful, beautiful place that I was looking around. It was like, they had like a little, triangular garden kind of thing. It was really nice. And I just wanted to see, like, if I hit the pavement, will it hurt? As a 6-year-old child, that didn't happen. And so when I started to step into gratitude, and I'm actually writing a book about it, because when I started to step into gratitude, it changed the game for me. And I'm not saying this to, seriously, it changed the game for me, and it still continues to change the game for me. Changed the game back then when I was a child and teenager and young adult to now. Even now, I've been suffering from, some health issues. And I'm like, you know what? This is happening to me, but how can I transmute it? A lot of people say, oh my God, my life is a wreck. Everything's happening. I'm a divorced woman with 5 kids. A lot of people will say, oh, she's worthless. They wouldn't even give me a second look. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, how can I transmute my story into something beautiful for myself? Like, it's an art. We have the capability of turning whatever situation that we have, whatever story that we have, and transmuting it into art, beautiful art. But we have to be willing to do that.
I know this
And
is
it's
going to
not,
sound really weird though, because then my brain kind of goes down the path of, yes, but isn't that, I know this sounds really weird given what you've been through, but isn't that from a very privileged position though? Because if you have a look at people in different parts of the world, they don't have access to, like, someone driving along the street might not have picked them up in another part of the world, India, China, anywhere. Maybe someone didn't pick up the kid. Maybe the kid didn't make it. It's so hard for me to sit in that place of thanks, because I look at some of the things I used to do some of the crazy things I used to do. And my mum used to always say to me, something somewhere is watching over you, because the stuff that you do, you should not. Like, I used to walk through Central Park or Hyde Park, which over here is kind of like Central Park in New York, and at 2:00 in the morning, wearing nothing more than a bra and a pair of shorts, because I'd just been clubbing and I was boiling hot, and I'd walk through this park. There's no one around except homeless people, and it was a really precarious thing to do, but I did it, and I did it multiple times a week. And I would just walk through, and she would go, how did you make it through there without somebody doing something to you? She said, something must have been looking after you. And I go, yeah, maybe. Or maybe I was just walking through with a vibration that said, don't touch me or I'll kick your ass. Like, I don't know. But is it, I guess my question comes down to, I still sit in that it's so hard to have faith in something when there's so much tragedy in the world. And I do understand that sometimes there are bad things that could have happened. Like my daughter, what if she hadn't made it? What if she hadn't actually survived, and did something greater than me save her, or did the hospital save her and there isn't anything greater than me? It's that question that I think, I know I'm not alone in just constantly picking at this question of, but how do you have faith in something when there is so much tragedy going on all the time? And at any time, something could happen to you, or something could happen to your kid and they might not make it. Then do you keep your faith, or then do you question your faith? It's hard. My closest friend, she just lost her mum and her son in the same month in December. And her son was in his 30s and her mum was in her 70s. And she lost them within 4 weeks of each other. And I sit there and I look back and I think, and she is keeping her faith. She's keeping the belief that this all happened for a very good reason. And I look at that and I think, far out, I don't know how. I don't know how you could keep your faith that losing your son happened for a very good reason. But she is. But then I go back to my original question is, yes, but is this coming from a very privileged position of being able to ask that question? Because really, in the whole scheme of life, we don't have, like, we haven't lost limbs. There aren't bombs going off outside our house. Our whole entire family hasn't just been blown up, or horrible things happen. But we do live in amazing countries, being in America or in England or in Australia, where they are very amazing Western countries where we do have privilege.
That's actually a wonderful question. And because I have traveled to different places of the world and seen really true poverty, and there is a kind of privilege in the Western world. That being said, when I grew up, first of all, I was molested as a little kid. I was raped at 11. I was also raped at 21. I actually wrote an article in Elite Daily about how do you overcome and get over when you're, the person that raped you was never charged, was never caught, was never, condemned, and those things happened to me, but that wasn't the worst of the things that happened. I've had a lot of things, several situations that happened. For instance, when I decided to move to Texas, right before I moved to Texas, the person that I was involved with in an intimate relationship, he decided to pounce on my stomach and kill my unborn child. And so as I was coming to Texas, I had went to the emergency room. They said, we don't hear a heartbeat. You're going to have to come in and get a DNC. I said, well, I'm flying out at 6 a.m. Like, I think it was like, it was the next day that I was flying out with 2 children, 3 suitcases, and $1,500 to start anew. I needed a fresh beginning, a new beginning. I needed to keep my faith. And knowing that, I had my two live children on the plane, but I also had one child that was not alive inside of me, um, was something that was very challenging to the point where I didn't even remember it. I was so trauma struck that I didn't even remember it for several years later. And then it came up to my remembrance about that instance. But I say that to say this: there's so many other more and more crucial, more, you know, crazy situations other than my own. But how I kept my faith and how I kept going, despite of, I mean, I have other stories, but let's start with here. Um, is understanding that whatever was for me. I almost lost my mind, literally in my early 20s. I almost lost my mind. Like and I guess maybe maybe I should share this. I haven't shared this on any other place or anything like that, but I used to take ecstasy when I was in my early 20s. And I took it to the point where I was taking like 6 tablets a day, and they were double stacked and sometimes even triple stacked. And it almost fried my brain. I went through a nervous breakdown from the things that were going on with my dad and family members. And at the age of 20, trying to take care of 2 children on my own, and also my dad that was suffering from dementia. I lost my mind for a split second.
Yeah.
Coming back from that and trying to figure out how to get back from that, all I can remember myself doing, I would get to a point I would be so lost that I would come out of a room and I would be going down a hall that was no more than 10 steps to the kitchen and forget what I was doing. I remember one time I was so distraught and afraid that I sat on the couch for like 20 minutes trying to figure out why was I in here? Why did I come in here? Because I couldn't remember.
I remember those days after I also took ecstasy and acid in copious amounts when I was younger. And I remember those days.
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
And mind you, when I said that my dad had dementia, well, his mother had, you had Alzheimer's too. And so knowing that that ran in my family, the only thing that I could say is, am I getting it? Do I have Alzheimer's? Am I going through dementia? Like, I was losing my mind. And what kept me going was I started to do affirmations. I don't even know where they came from. I don't even know how I got them, because it wasn't something that I learned out from outside of me. It was something that just sprung up and told me to start saying, like certain things, like I am good enough. I'm well. This is wonderful things that brought me back and kept me in a space of not being insane. And that was another thing that really scared me, is because I had 2 children. Like, if I lost my mind, what would happen to them? I knew what the foster system did and could do to a person. I never wanted that to happen to my children. And, fighting against that and keeping my faith was the only thing that I could do. How I kept my faith through all the years, and I'm just going to be plain and honest, is that I got to the point where I was very hard hit. I went through a lot of stuff, and this is just the like not even 1/3 of the things that I've been through. But how I kept the faith is saying, I have a vision of myself here. This is the vision of myself. It doesn't look like this right now. Why? But how could I get here? If I can't understand how to get here through my own understanding, my own experiences, my own knowledge, then there has to be a higher source that knows how to get here. And just surrendering to that higher source, saying, okay, I may not trust you in the beginning, because I didn't. Who would, a control freak? I was a control freak. I'm not even gonna lie. I was a complete control freak. A control freak like me trying to trust something that's outside of me.
That you can't see or hear or smell or touch, that isn't tangible.
It was like that was no, it couldn't happen. But the thing about it is, I got hit by the bus so many times. I said, maybe I should try something different, because something is not right here. It's not. I see the vision of myself here that's beautiful, amazing, successful, happy. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be safe. I wanted to be healthy. And I saw the vision there, but I didn't know how to get there. So I said, I've been screwing up. I almost cussed, but I've been screwing up all the way here. Maybe I should give this sound in my head, this thought, this other entity, this universe, this God, a try and see what happens. And when I started to surrender, I'm telling you, one of the biggest things that I did, because I was still control, even though that I have been allowing God to lead for years now, it still was so much a part of me to control things. I wanted to control, like, when I was going to get the money, I was so worried, like, even with my business, like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this business, but where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the people? Where's the this? I wanted to control everything and figure out, but that's where no miracles could be made. We cannot see miracles if we're constantly in control. There's no miracles. And so when I jumped out of the plane in October, and because I didn't even realize, like, I had some friends of mine that were like, oh yeah, you're jumping out of a plane. Well, we jumped out of a plane. They were telling me about their experiences. And she said, there's going to be this moment. And, in this moment, yeah, there's going to be a moment. And I was like, what moment is that? And she was like, you'll know the moment. You'll find out. And I knew the moment, because I freaked out. Like, when we were in the air and I was looking down, they were like, 2 minutes. I was like, what? 2 minutes? Wait a minute. And I said, I changed my mind. And I was holding on to everything. He's like, no, you have to jump. And the guy next to me, they put me at the end on purpose for me to jump first. And the guy on the other side of me, the other jumper, because it was a real small plane, like small, it was 4 of us in the back, and then the pilot. That's it. That's all that could fit in the space. And so the guy's looking at me like, would you just shut up and jump? Like, because he's starting to freak too. And I'm like,
you're freaking him out.
Right? And that's the whole thing. We went through this whole training about don't freak out, don't do this, and do your legs like this and your arms, and all that stuff went out the window. So I am actually going to jump out of the plane again to redeem myself, because like literally everything that I was taught on the ground went out the window. But the whole point of this is that the surrender part, when I said, okay, I got to jump, like, I mean, I have to jump. Everybody's telling me to jump. I got to jump. And when I put my feet out on the other side, I was like, and then, they're supposed to say 1, 2, 3. No, there was no 1, 2, 3. But when he jumped and I was going through the air, and it felt like the parachute wasn't going to open, and finally it did. It's the same thing with life. I promise you. Because even after that, when I saw things in my life, it was exactly the same. I felt like there was no parachute. Like right now, I'm taking my kids to Japan. And I'm like, okay, well, you know how mothers are. We want to have the big shebang. We want to, make sure that, and I'm like, okay, well, there's some unexpected, bills that I had because of health issues. So now I got to pay these bills. I have all these expenses and everything else that kind of overtook the trip to Japan. Should I cancel the trip to Japan, or should I go forward with it? My thing is that I kept on hearing that that's where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to go to Japan. Me and my kids are supposed to go to Japan. So, like, where's the money, God? Like, and then all of a sudden, I'm telling you, there's certain things that started to happen. Like, I got unexpected refund from my taxes paying over my property taxes. Then I got another unexpected, amount, just so many different unexpected amounts. And I was like, whoa, this is different. But I trusted the process. I said, okay, we're going to probably pinch pennies, but everything worked in its plan. And it has been working for me like that for forever, it seems like now. And now I don't have to worry. But the bottom line that I want you to know is that trauma is real. I don't want you to reject the fact that it is. I don't want you to dismiss it. I don't want you to act as if it doesn't exist. I want you to sit with it, embrace it in the matter of, this is how I truly feel. And it's real. That being said, what is more real for me? Is it going to be the trauma that I have had and am creating even more anxiety for and all that? Or is it going to be what the possibilities of my life, what I want it to look like? And you have to choose. And it's a hard choice. But it's a choice that you could definitely make for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's hitting me so hard at the moment. It is such a hard choice.
Yeah. It is. It is. And I've been there so many times, and I understand how you feel. Like, one of the things that I love about, I'm honored about, like, being able to share my story and to help others. And it really does make my days, because trauma is real. It is real. The anxiety, the depression, the hurt, the pain, the feeling worthless. I've been there.
I think that's the worst part. The worst outcome is that just feeling so worthless. Like, of everything else, the hurt, the pain, the depression, the sadness, the thing that just pulls me down and the people that I've spoken to is just that utter feeling of being completely worthless. Like, if your mom and your dad or your sister or your brother or your aunt or your grandpa, like someone in your immediate family that is supposed to love you, that's supposed to nurture you, take care of you. This is what we're raised to believe. Look at all the TV shows. Doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on, how privileged you are or not. We're all pretty much watching the same TV shows, which says mom and dad. You don't have TV shows where dad is going in the middle of the night and molesting the 3-year-old. You don't see that on television. That's not good drama. Like, that's not what we grew up with. That didn't happen on Days of Our Lives or Beverly Hills 90210 or any of these other shows that I grew up on. Over here we had Hey Dad, and it was a single dad with 3 kids, and it was really happy and it was fabulous. Turns out the father of the actual show was molesting the kids, but it wasn't in the show. And we didn't grow up with that kind of reality. We grew up with this reality where we watch TV, and the mum and the dad and the 3 kids, 2.5 kids and the dog, and they live in this perfect house and they have this happy, fun life, and all the Disney shows and all the Nickelodeon shows, you see them now. This is the reality that's put right in front of our face, and it's not real. And so then you grow up getting either physically or emotionally abused by your family. For some people, it's one member. For some of us, it's all the members of the family when it's down to emotional abuse. And you just grow up thinking, what is the point of my existence? Like, if my family hates me, if my family are abusing me, imagine what somebody that I don't know could do to me. And then you come down to the sexual abuse, and you come down to which I have been through in my teenage years and like 19, 20-year-old. And you go through that kind of abuse from men, and you think, far out, man, where does it end? People that love me abuse me. People that barely know me abuse me. Like, there's no worthiness in there. And so it is challenging to even think, if you connect that to God, to even think that you are worthy of being loved by God. And I think that's where the faith issue comes in. I think if I really look at it, it's not that I have an issue with believing, it's that I have an issue with believing that I am worthy.
Mm.
And that is really hard to shift.
That's good. You know, and I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, I didn't mean to laugh when you were talking about the hey dad and, you know, the abuse and everything else. I laughed because you're absolutely right. We grew up where our family swept things underneath the rugs. They didn't talk about them, they didn't address them. We couldn't even ask questions. We were not safe. And let me just say this, and I'm not trying to make excuses for anyone. That being said, I feel like some parents, some adults in this season of our lives did not know how to communicate them themselves. They most likely probably were also abused and were taught to shh, be quiet, sweep it underneath the rug, don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, how can you really, if they're not the kind of people to say, okay, I'm going to advocate for myself and I'm going to advocate for others, how could they have a voice? And so, how could we
I
have a voice?
Yeah, I do sit in a lot of compassion for and I have said this many times over the years when people say to me, how can you be compassionate for the abuse that you've got? And I said, because my mum watched her dad go to war twice and she was a little kid and she spent years never knowing whether he was going to come back. And her reality in life was sitting around a radio listening every day to like what was happening back then, the war, the bombs, the lives, the not knowing if the knock on the door was going to be somebody saying, you know, here's the medal, he didn't make it home. And then my grandpa did come home, but he was a mess and he became an alcoholic and he became a very abusive alcoholic. And so yeah, you got and our parents were just, they're in such a different time. And my mum lost her first child, he passed away when he was 3 days old. She lost him. And back then, my dad was at work, my aunt was overseas. Nobody came to support her. Nobody came to hold her. Nobody came to love her and help her through that trauma and help her through that grief. I don't even know if he's buried. Like, I have no idea where my brother is. He could be anywhere. I have no idea. No one in the family knows. It wasn't the kind of thing that you dealt with. The baby was just taken away and like, for all I know, they were just chucked in a pile and, you know, thrown in the trash. So that's just the reality back then. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Facebook grieving groups. We didn't have free counseling services. You didn't have any of that stuff 50 years ago, or longer now, 53 years ago when he was born. None of that stuff existed. So yeah, I personally, like you, I think sit in a strong place of compassion from my parents. I do think that they could know better now. And even though they're both gone, the family members that are still behind are still following through with the abuse. And I think they should know better because now they're adults. But again, they went through their own trauma when they were kids. They went through their own hell. They went through their own stuff that they don't know how to deal with. So I get that side of coming at it with a lot of compassion for the people that did it, because they just did it because they were already broken themselves.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we could go through the compassion of things, but we also have to go through the accountability. They may never take accountability. They may not ever know what really accountability really looks like in their lives when it comes to certain, but us, we are the game changers. You know, we are the ones that could set the game, the field of, okay, we know that we've been through trauma. We see it. We feel it. We experience it probably every single day. Like we're fighting against, you know, that trauma. And to stay alive, to stay in faith, to stay in a good positive manner, to keep on moving forward. So if we're like that in those moments, then we could also now also see the ability to take accountability. Because the thing about it is this, we could teach the younger generation. This is why we are the game changers. We are starting to, just like how you have compassion for your family members, say, I can understand this. Now that you understand this, you're the people that are younger than you, the people that come after you, should be able to understand where you are. But you're the difference maker, because now you could say, even though that I am here, I could take accountability. How can I make things different? How can not only I know how to show compassion, can I show compassion for myself? You said the most thing that you struggle with was worthiness. But that's where your compassion comes in for yourself. Your compassion comes in for the younger generation, to be able to hold yourself accountable, to help them to be doing the same, having compassion, holding themselves accountable. It's really like we actually are the ones that have the whole world in our hands. We are the ones that are going to change things. And the sooner that we realize that, I feel like the sooner that we can understand, oh, this is our purpose. This is our worth. You know how you know how huge that is, to know that you as an individual could be the person standing in between the awesomeness that could happen for the next generations. It's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's not just about any of us. It's about, now that we are awakened to, we have gone through trauma, embracing that, not denying our right to talk about it, to express our feelings, to realize and continue to dig deep into our trauma, but also being able to say, I have compassion for myself. I love myself. I didn't know, like, the things that I did as a mother when I was with my older children. It's like, man, I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have did it this way. Even in relationships, intimate relationships, I'm like, I had some really messed up relationship. Like, I really feel like I dropped the ball in several different areas, but I still have compassion for myself. I didn't know, I didn't have a mother or father that was sane and that would teach me, that would groom me, that would help me, that would mold me. I didn't have brothers and sisters or what that were good, because you could have brothers and sisters that are evil and you'll be in a totally messed up place. But I didn't have the support system. So how can I show compassion for myself every day? Even if I didn't learn today, I got something wrong today, I repeated the same cycle from yesterday. Today, I did that. Can I have compassion for myself? Just the way your parents deserve that compassion. You understood where they were and where they came from. Give yourself the same compassion. You deserve it.
Thank you for saying that. I am not very compassionate towards myself. I have had more than one person in my life say, I think you're kind of being a bit hard on yourself.
Mm.
And it's very easy, especially being a control freak and wanting everything to be a specific way, or wanting everything to look a specific way, and controlling things. And then when something doesn't go that way, I remember, I think it's in my 30s, when I woke up when I was actually 30. I woke up to all the trauma and the abuse and the voices in my head and how I felt about myself. And I've been unpacking that now for 17 years. Been a long time. But I remember standing there and just kind of realizing that I'm really I don't need anyone to abuse me anymore. I don't need anyone to emotionally abuse me anymore. I don't need anyone to physically abuse me anymore, because I do that enough to myself. And it's kind of like, when I realized that, it's like, wow, that's why I don't have people around me anymore, because this voice in my head is just so mean. It's so mean. And it has taken over the voice from my family. It's taken over the voice of my sister and my mum and my dad and my teachers and everyone else that did that. It's taken over that voice, and it's mean. And I think it is because of that lack of compassion, that lack of care, that lack of kindness. And then I think it comes down what you said, where if you're not taught kindness, if you don't have kind people around you, if you didn't grow up with people who said kind, thoughtful things to you, it's not in there. There's no program in your brain that has that in there. If you had meanness and nastiness, and that's all you heard, or that was the predominant voice that was around you, then that's what you're going to have. And it's kind of sad to think that, and I do often sit back and think, wow, I cannot believe I don't allow mean people in my environment anymore. I won't have it. Anyone that abuses me in any way, shape, or form, I don't have the space for. And yet I seem to have the space for my own emotional abuse for myself.
Wow.
And it's interesting talking about this, because I don't have anyone around me that I talk to about this sort of stuff. It's just stories and conversations that I have in my head. But it's that lack of compassion, that lack of kindness for me that is continuing the abuse. The emotional abuse for me verbally has stopped because I cut everybody out, and also my mum and dad have both passed now. But it's still there because I'm still doing it to myself. So I want to thank you for reminding me about being compassionate. And I want to add kind to that, because I think it's very easy to be mean to ourselves and not realize that we're actually being mean.
You're absolutely right. I spent a lot of my years being mean to myself and judging myself for things that I was out of my control. Like, for instance, like I said, I grew up in foster care, and I wasn't protected. There was even I remember a foster home that I was in where the boyfriend of the foster parent that I was supposed to be entrusted to, they were having sexual intercourse with 13-year-old children. And it was not a safe environment for me. But when I got pregnant, I am a two-time, teenage mother. And so when I got pregnant twice with, two different children, of course, and I thought, the things that run through your head, that, the projections that people, oh, she's, a horror, she's this, she's that, it already is embedded in people to think that this is who you are. And they don't even take into account of maybe there's something behind that. Maybe there's a story. Maybe there's a reason, a why. And even if there wasn't, where's the grace for people to be able to change their stories, rewrite them,
and make mistakes?
It's like, just because a person didn't make the same mistakes that you made does not mean that you're faultless from mistakes. And I think that a lot of times some people get their judgment for other people because they've been judged themselves, and that they also judge themselves. And so I don't take it to heart anymore. I kind of like, oh, yeah, I just had this happen the other day. I mean, it was like projection. And I was really at first getting irritated with it. And I think it was because when it comes to my spirituality, I'm like, that's one space that don't cross the boundary. When you're my friend, when you're my friend and family member, I have a very very solid spirituality. But then I got to think, okay, why, once again I had to reopen and say, why is this event happening? Why is this person coming? Out of all the trillion of possibilities, why this?
Yep.
So when I started to ask those questions, I said, okay, let me dig a little deeper. And I really got answers. Like literally. And this is what's so interesting about it. When I started to be very focused on these kinds of situations and saying and asking why, ask yourself. And it's not like everybody wants to, do this long prayer, dear God, help me, the Psalms 91, or the whole, don't know, just ask a simple question. Okay, why is this happening? Show me. Help me to understand. It's simple, just a simple, small question. And really, it is a prayer. And then what I do is I meditate on it. And when I meditated on it, I don't meditate like, come and tell me the answer. I don't stress it. What I do when I meditate, I allow like songs. I do a lot of energy healing, and I'm an energy healer. Been doing that for like since I guess 2006. I'm also a Reiki master. I just became a Reiki master in 2020, but I've been doing energy healing for years. But so when I do energy healing, it's all about the songs. Music healed me so many times throughout my life. And I didn't understand why until I got older, but that's another situation. That's another conversation. But, do things that make you happy. One of the things that makes me happy is being anywhere near water. It's a lake, the beach, the shower, the bathtub, whatever, even running my hands through the water. Water heals me. And that may be a healing component of you for you or anybody else that's listening. Also, another healing component may be just walking in nature, putting your feet. One of the things that I did when I started to have anxiety, somebody else told me this. They said, whenever you start to have anxiety, I was having bad anxiety. Like, I was like, when I first came to Texas from California, especially with all the trauma that had happened, I started having really bad anxiety. And they said, if you ever feel this way, go outside and walk outside in the grass with your feet off. I mean, your shoes off, your feet off, your shoes off, and just walk outside in the grass. It helped me significantly. And what that is really truthfully is that it's a grounding mechanism that can help to ground you back to a calmer state, a state of clarity, a state of focus, rather than being all, up in the air and, just dangling. I felt like I was dangling, somewhere, and it was not pleasant. And so doing certain things that could assist you when you feel like, because we are going to get those feelings. Let's just say this. It's not like, oh, today you listen to this and it's just going to go away and you're never going to have it again. It's going to come back no matter how focused, no matter how free, no matter how healed you feel in this moment. It's going to come back one day. Let me just say, it may possibly come back one day. And when it does come back, you need to have tools that are going to help you to overcome those situations. And those tools are figuring out what heals you, what makes you calm, what makes you feel worthy, what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel relevant. Like sometimes it's like, why am I here? Like I remember I had so many questions like that. I'm like, well, God, you put me through all this BS. Like I went through so much BS and I'm like, why? Why am I even here? I felt like, and I had these questions. I have a back and forth with God, and I've had it for years since I was a kid. So I would ask him, like, God, do you hate me? Am I your,
Are you just using me?
Yeah, for real.
As a punching bag?
Exactly. I asked God because I really wanted to know, because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like he hated me. I felt like I was the unwanted stepchild, kind of thing. Like, the Cinderella story or something, without the prince and without the, glass slipper. I felt like I was not worthy. I felt like God forgot me. I even asked him, "Did you forget me?" Because how are you going to tell me when I was a kid I was special and I had gifts, but as a teenager and as a young adult, I'm going through all this BS? It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't reconcile that. So in those moments, I realized that calming myself down so I could see the bigger picture. A lot of times we're looking at the problem in front of us. That's all we see is that problem instead of the bigger picture that's so much more, more significant. And I'm not saying that those problems aren't significant. What I'm saying is that the bigger picture could give you insight to why you are and who you are. So that's what I did. I started looking at the bigger picture.
I'm letting that all sink in. I'm letting everything from the call sink in. It's just been so good talking with you about just all of this stuff and seeing how I don't feel like now I've been on the wrong path. I feel like I've been on the, let's say, right or wrong, I've been on the right path, but I just kind of need to just deviate a little bit, add a few things in, when I'm washing the dishes, because I use washing the dishes and going to the toilet as really good times to just stop my head and just connect, because I don't have to do anything for anybody else. I don't have to be anything. All I have to do is stand there and wash the dishes or sit down and pee. Like, it's not, I don't have to do this perfect. I can't really do this wrong. So when I stand and wash the dishes, it is often a time where I just close my eyes for a minute and I breathe. And sometimes I'll stand there and go, it's okay. It's okay. You're doing good. And I feel like it's taking more time to do exactly that, is to just stop and close my eyes, especially when I am beating the shit out of myself or something that I may or may not have done, but that voice is just going rampant in my head and baseball bat is just smashing my heart into a million pieces, is to just stand there and understand that that's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's my program. It's the grooming. It's whatever you want to call it. It's the habit. It's the addiction. It's all in there. But in spite of all of that, just take a minute to close my eyes and go, it's okay. You're doing okay. I'm doing okay. And then listening just a little bit more. There's a part of me, like you moved and you didn't move with very much with 2 kids. There's a part of me that keeps wanting to move. I want to move us back into the city. I want to get us there. And I'm looking at it going, but how? How am I going to do that? I don't really want to use my savings, because then if I use my savings, then I've got nothing. Like, there's no backup money there. And I love having backup money. It's important to me, because then if something happens to a cat or a dog or a kid, or a bill comes in unexpectedly, it doesn't matter. I've got the money there. It's okay. I can still pay for that. But yeah, it's taking that step and moving us back to the city and knowing that it's okay. The rent money that I need is going to come. It's not here right now, but it will come, because moving us back to the city is going to open up my daughter's heart, because then she can go and do things that she loves. She can do gymnastics. She can do a horse riding. She can do a swimming. She can do a ninja training. She can do a tennis. She can do all the things that she loves, because we're back in the city again. And so her heart is going to open and she's going to shine. And then all of a sudden, that's one less bat that I'm holding up, because I made the decision to move us here. I made the decision to buy all these animals. I made the decision to do this. And now I have unintentionally made her unhappy with where we are, because she's she's just a massive extrovert and she loves having friends, but we are nowhere near that kind of environment. And while this is great for me and it's helped me with my healing, because I was getting really slammed in the city, I think now it's a good time to move back, but I don't know the how. And you just kind of helped me just constantly put down the bat when I say how, and then beating myself up for making this decision. Let's put down the bat and just go, it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. The how will unravel along the way. And I'm a destination person. And I even said this to someone last week when I had my car and caravan, and they said, oh, how much of Australia did you see? Like, you had a car and a caravan for 2 years and you were on your own. How much did you see? And I said, no, I didn't see anything. I'm a destination person. So I went from where I was in one caravan park to the next caravan park, and I didn't really see very much in between, because I'm not a journey person. I'm a destination person. But that's the control. And that's the fear of, but what if I don't make it to where I need to make it? What if something goes wrong and I don't end up getting there? I have to get to there. So my focus is getting to there. But then you miss everything along the way. Like, I missed all of this scenery along the way because I just wanted to go from one caravan park to the next caravan park. And then I said, I traveled Australia. It's like, yeah, I traveled Australia, but I saw nothing except the road and caravan parks. So yeah, this conversation is just it's just helped unravel some of that. Just that, it's just let it go a little bit. Just let it go just a little bit. I don't have to drop it all, but it's just helped me let it go just a little bit. And it's added in that permission. It has to just take a minute and go, it's okay. I'm doing okay. I'm actually doing really well. I'm doing okay. And it's okay for me to say I'm doing okay.
Exactly. It's okay for us to say that and feel that. Thank you so much for this. I don't know, like, I don't even know how we got here, but I promise you I wasn't trying to get here. But I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for coming on and having this conversation with me. It's been a real gift.
Yes, and I hope that you got something from it, explaining the trauma and everything else. And I'm glad that we had the conversation. I think what you're doing, first of all, is very important, because a lot of people run away from trauma, and we need to face it head on. So thank you so much for doing it. I really honor your spirit. I'm really thankful for you. So I hope you have a good evening, because I know is it late out there in Australia or early?
No, it's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
It's
you're okay.
Late o'clock. I think it's late at night for you, but it's afternoon for me.
Well, it is 10 o'clock at night for me, but thank you so much.